Everything looks to be in order. Now, I obviously have a script for this because it's going to be a really, really long one. Yep. I've been planning to actually record this video, however, I've been a lazy fat fuck, and I can't say I've lacked motivation because motivation hasn't been the overall hindrance to getting this released. It's just been a topic that I can write paragraphs upon paragraphs upon paragraphs about, but I decided to really take my time with this. So yeah, this is basically going to be titled, yeah, you can never have too much muscle. Growing up, we all hear this myth of, really grinds my gears when people say that, oh, like, don't build too much muscle, don't build too much muscle. You want to get too big, or you have the normie who's been training in the gym for roughly around three weeks, not even 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks, hell, less than 3 days. The first thing they tell you is, oh, I don't want to get too big. It's like, my dude, if only it was that difficult to get so big, you have no idea. So yeah. Yeah, it's as comparable to the skeleton, the fuck? I'm fucking mean, holy shit. Oh, no, it's not skeleton. I can't read my own notes. It's comparable to the statement women make to justify their lack of resistance training. Whenever they use statements like, I don't want to get too big or too bulky, so I don't lift weights. Yeah, you've heard the Valley Girl women, whatever, the suburban white women who go to the gym. Even the prissy, the prissy Gen Z millennial women who don't lift weights, they say, oh, I don't want to get too bulky, I don't get too big, right? So it's comparable to that. Dudes who say that shit, they're comparable to these chicks who say that, right? Now, if you show the average normie an image of Mr. Olympia, 8-time Mr. Olympia, Ronnie Coleman, my favorite Mr. Olympia, by the way, right? They'll immediately think, ew, too much muscle, and my response to that is, wait, what the fuck? Yeah. So my response to that is, well, unfortunately, it says whatever. Like, when somebody they commented to him, whatever, I never want to look like you. I want to reply back with a statement of, don't worry, you never will. Because it's true. You're never going to look like these super physiological beasts. Yeah, that says DerekMoore, shout out. You'll never look like these complete behemoths of humans. You'll never resemble Mr. Olympia, 8-time Mr. Olympia, Ronnie Coleman. You never look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You only look like Chris Bumstead. And Bumstead, he has an impressive physique, don't get me wrong. Bumstead is just like, he's probably my favorite classic Olympia champion right now. My favorite Mr. Olympia at the moment. Ronnie Coleman is my favorite of all time, but Chris Bumstead has a special place in my heart at the moment. Yes, guys. Yes. So, the normie simply doesn't comprehend that Ronnie's size is a combination of his genetic response to training, genetic response to anabolic drugs, as well as Ronnie's pure do-or-die attitude towards fighting for that last rep on that heavy-ass set. Ronnie Coleman's work ethic, I like to call Ronnie Coleman the Kobe Bryant of bodybuilding because Kobe Bryant and Ronnie have the mentality of they're the first ones in the gym, the last ones in the gym, and they're on a strict dietary regimen. They're on a strict practice training protocol. They follow very strict guidelines on what they do during off season, what they do during on season. On season mode, they're in an entirely different modus operandi. They think differently. Hell, they even interact with people differently. That's what these champions do. They turn their phones off. They diet down heavily. They go into stricter diet models, dietary practices. They go into strict training practices in which they just dialed in. Normies can't even muster up enough energy to cancel their fucking Uber Eats, let alone train fucking 5 years, hell, freaking 1 year to build up amount of muscle or implement a strict training regimen in order to become one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time. These normies don't understand. They have no idea. So this statement of I don't want to get too big, it stems from ignorance. And so it mainly stems from ignorance. It stems from ignorance. As well as the perceived bodybuilder aesthetic. They perceive that bodybuilders are all just all this Ronnie Coleman. They perceive Ronnie Coleman to be just that's Ronnie Coleman was Ronnie Coleman because he was special. He won eight straight Mr. Olympics because he had a combination of size, strength, and conditioning. Now, aesthetics are questionable because maybe you might not like the mass monster aesthetic. However, I would counter argument that with I counter that with if you look at Ronnie Coleman when he was natural, people don't believe not Ronnie when he was natural at, up until his 30s, mid 30s. I think mid to early 30s, but they don't perceive Ronnie to be natural. But I do. Hey, call me an idiot. Hell, there motherfuckers right now who think I'm not natural. It's I take it as a compliment, obviously, but it's funny as fuck. It shows how far we fall in society and how far these standards have been lowered. That's beside the point. Then there's this notion of having so much muscle on your frame that it becomes a detriment to your arteries and cardiovascular system. Yeah, people tend to phrase this argument with the statement of too much muscle isn't good for your heart. Your heart's gonna have to work much harder. And yes, it's true. If you ask these big brain these giga brain retards, right? They'll cite multiple studies of individuals who have, what the hell is it called again? Myostatin deficiency, in which they are limited within their overall, they're limited in how much they can actually live a full life because this amount of muscle on their frame is causing sort of detriment to their health. And bodybuilders fall within that category. Now, obviously, if you're a natural athlete, there's no way in hell you're going to put so much muscle on it's going to be a detriment to your health. Now, if you don't believe me, try it yourself. You, the normie, try it yourself. Try to train 10 straight years and see how much muscle you gain. Now, if you're not half-assing, there's a big chance you're not going to be training like a lot of people, like on the platform, or even people who are die-hard guys. Like, you're not going to be training 5 consistent years, whatever. The average normie goes to the gym, whatever, less than 3 months and they quit. That's everybody. That's everyone. That's most people, whatever. They go in, they do a bunch of fluff and puff work, and then they go home. They make excuses for why they can't get big. They say, "Oh, I don't have the genetic capabilities for it." It's all bullshit. We know it, right? Yeah. So, normies, listen up. This is a problem that natural bodybuilders will never have to deal with, considering the sheer amount of difficulty considering the sheer difficulty impacting on actual lean contractile tissue. Shout out to Derek again, right now. The body already has so many predetermining factors that limit the amount of muscle you can pack on. We all know what myostatin deficiency is. Yes. Hell, Megan from what's his channel called again? This guy's awesome. Megan from, man, my brain is just failing me at the moment. Team 3D Alpha. There it is. Megan from Team 3D Alpha. He probably did the best analysis of like the factors that limit muscle growth besides myostatin. Several factors. Your ancestry comes into play. How your androgens react to the overall training stimulation. How you react how your body reacts to certain movement patterns. Your body's response to certain dietary practices. All these come into play, right? Yes, the health problems that are associated with having an immense level of muscle mass. Hi, mommy. That's my mom. Yeah, an immense level of muscle mass, whatever, right? It's only presented in it's only presented in bodybuilders. Like only these unnatural bodybuilders who are, injecting their assholes with, not their assholes, but sticking needles in there, pinning themselves, right, with these exuberant amount of drugs, drugs that are probably fucking kill a goddamn gorilla if a gorilla took that shit, right? So they're injecting their body with all these drugs, right? And over time, they're developing these health problems, these cardiovascular health problems, in which if you see a man who's roughly, 320 pounds, right? Whether or not that's muscle, that's weight. If that's weight added on his frame, it's going to make living more difficult. It's going to make breathing more difficult. It's going to make basic activities such as walking up a flight of steps much more difficult. Now, if you're a natural bodybuilder, you won't have these problems. Your body already has these regulatory, see, I can't even fucking think right now. These regulatory genetic predispositions that you already have, your body already placed them. Like these mechanisms are already set in place. So, missing with that bullshit. Now, this script just got, wow. Man. I actually made it past the script, whatever, rambling my head off. So, now let's see now. Now, if you look at people who trained for over 10 years, you look at these bodybuilders who trained for over a decade, right? They were big motherfuckers, they were huge, right? And you show them to the average normie. It's unfortunate. The average normie thinks that these guys are probably on, well, I can't say the average normie, but the average DYEL, they'll think they're not natural. right? However, the average normal would say, "Wow, these guys look pretty cool." Yeah, like they would. They think, "Wow, they're like they're big, but they're not grotesque. They're not big to the point of just being these bubblegum bonanza motherfuckers you see walking on, Mr. Olympia. Oh man, it was just a complete shit show. Back in 20, look at Mr. Olympia in 2011. It was a shit show. You have Phil Heath, which by the way, Phil Heath had probably, if I had to pretty much, like they call him the gift for a reason. This guy he wasn't blessed with the best genetic structure in terms of like bone structure. However, he had very round muscle bellies. He had very excellent insertions, like his bicep would insert in a manner that just like his overall bicep inserts, whatever, were incredible. Shoulder inserts were incredible, and he had small joints. So when he filled his muscle out, right, he just looked, he would only be roughly like 265 on stage, but he would just mug people who were like 270 plus, and he would just look aesthetic as fuck. Then somewhere down along the line, Phil Heath got a big bubble gut because he tried to pack on size, and he gained a distended gut from eating a bunch of food, right? So he ate a bunch of food, gained a distended gut, whatever, and people hypothesize it could be a combination of insulin and GH, hormone usage, whatever. So they call it the GH roid gut. It's a term that's been floating around Louis Marco page, which by the way I missed Louis Marco's channel. But yeah, the GH gut. And yeah, these bodybuilders, whoever around that time, they looked fucking horrible, and judges were just completely. They kept giving Phil Heath the title, and people were just. Probably the biggest shit show in bodybuilding history, or whatever. You had Phil Heath just winning these championships, whatever, pregnant as fuck on the stage, too, and yeah, that's besides the point, whatever. But if you show any person, the men I'm going to name right now, you show them their physique, whatever, if they can see the beauty in that physique, they can definitely see whatever, not homoerotic beauty, of course, right? But like, yeah, like, Steve Reeves, whatever, right? And, yeah. By the way, these men live longer lives than professional bodybuilders right now. They live much longer lives right. These natural men, Steve Reeves, whatever. Although he died at 74, which I'm not sure what Steve Reeves died of, but it wasn't linked to bodybuilding, right? Steve Reeves stood at 6'1", weighing 215 pounds, right, while winning Mr. America in 1947. Now, he won Mr. World, Mr. Universe in 1940, including another Mr. Universe title in 1950. Now, he has such an impressive physique that if you show him to the average DYEL, right, the motherfuckers who don't even lift, right, they would accuse him of taking steroids. Reeves had nice wide shoulders, he had a narrow waist. Although he didn't have small joints like Phil Heath did, right, he had much larger joints. However, it gave him a more Herculean physique, in which it's awesome because he actually played Hercules. There's a Hercules adaptation with Reeves. Although I wish they kept his dub voice. Like, yeah, it would have been awesome if you heard Reeves, because Reeves has such a manly voice, in my opinion. Like, his voice was very deep. It wasn't raspy, but it was deep. He can project through probably, if he was in New York City right now, that metropolitan shithole New York City, like if he was in New York City, he can shout and everyone would hear his fucking voice because his voice is deep. He would project it. Yeah, it would have been awesome, right? Now you have guys like Leroy Cobra, who died at 82, right? If you now just look at this guy, I'm gonna put this guy on screen. If you look at these bodybuilders, right? If you examine the sheer size on this man, right, you think this is what I picture when I hear the word compound. When I hear the compound word bodybuilder, this is who I perceive. I perceive a guy who looks like Leroy Cobra. Now, if I can recall, he was the first man to develop 20-inch arms, whatever, the circumference of 20 inches. He was the first man to ever achieve that. It's just an impressive sight. Now, although his body fat percentage is questionable, like it likely wasn't 10%. However, he still had an aesthetic physique. He had a physique in which you would be beyond contented you had his physique. 20-inch arms. He died at 82, right? Now, that's much, much later than you have. Hell, if I can recall, right, you have guys like Boston Lloyd dying at 29. I'm not even 29 yet, right? It's like, Boston Lloyd dying at 29, whatever. Everyone knows who Boston Lloyd is. He's basically this. If I can think about it, whatever, he's like Ziz, but the shock value version of, like, he's not trying to be aesthetic, he's trying to be a big motherfucker, right? And in the process of it, he ended up killing himself prematurely, albeit, right? which is very unfortunate. Cobra, on the other hand, lived to be 80 fucking 2. And if you look at images of him flexing when he was 82, right, he still had size on his biceps. That's the crazy part about it. If you look at professional bodybuilders who pretty much just completely like fall off the wagon, if you look at them now, they don't look like they trained. They don't look like they live in a single weight within their life. It's because the amount of muscle they accumulated, it fell from their body. The second you took away the drugs from them, the muscle mass just waned. They lost their muscle mass, whatever, entirely. Leroy Cobra was still relatively jacked in his early 80s. Like he was still relatively jacked. And that's the inspiring part about it. It makes me look forward to even, reaching my 30s. Hell, my sister called me old as fuck because I had my 26th birthday recently, right? And she's like, oh, you're getting old. I'm like, man, I don't feel old, bro. It's like, see me at 30. I'm going to be that jack motherfucker at 30. I won't even be upset about it, right? It's going to be like, yeah, it's going to be awesome, right? So you guys got Leroy Cobra or whatever, right? And then you have, so, hold on. Jack LaLanne or whatever, I can't even speak right. What the fuck, bro? I can't even speak. So Natural Hypertrophy or whatever did an incredible video about Jack LaLanne or whatever. I never knew about this man. I never knew about him. So he died at 97 years of age. Yeah, this is like, this man was a complete animal. He stood at 5'6", 150 pounds, right, while placing second at the 1954 Professional Mr. America contest, right? And Jack LaLanne brought in, he brought a very aesthetic physique, very beautiful V taper, all those legs, like he didn't have the X frame. He had an ideal V taper because his V taper looked incredible. Extremely strong, very athletic, extremely athletic. A lot of these bodybuilders right now who stand on stage, they're not very athletic. As I told you before previously, they will gas out walking up a flight of steps. Of course, I don't have any more examples because I was going to list several examples, but I think you get the point, right? The point is these men live fairly long lives relative to pro bodybuilders who blasted, copious amounts of steroids prior to dying in their mid-50s and even early 40s, right? If you show any of these prime physiques to the average normie, they would say, okay, this is a physique that I can picture myself having, right? So this concept of being too big, if these men couldn't get so big that they mug PED users on drugs, what makes you think you can get so big? Like hell, I'm talking to you, Stacey. What makes you think you can get so big you can have shoulders like almost around his mind, or hell, like, let alone Ronnie Coleman shoulders? You're never gonna get that fucking huge. It's not gonna happen. So yeah, I think I've rambled enough. I've shown you, I've shown you the examples of these aesthetic physiques of the past. Hell, I might even do more recoveries. Whatever. There's so many bodybuilders of the silver era. Silver era, the bronze era. These bodybuilders just look fucking incredible. They were mostly natural. Hell, no, they were all natural. 1920s talking about. These guys just look incredible. And they completely just shit on a lot of bodybuilders currently who are natural currently. Like, they shit on them because they didn't have the limited mindset of fixating on individuals who are on PEDs, on SARMs, on these, Winstrol, whatever the fuck. I swear, there's a different drug being created as we speak at the moment. But yeah, these men didn't fixate on their limitations. Their limitations didn't matter, and they didn't get too big. They got big as fuck, but they didn't get so big that they were repulsive. So yeah, you can never get too big. There's no such thing. In summation, there's no such thing as building too much muscle mass. That's a myth. It's a meme. It doesn't exist. I don't care what anybody says. All right, peace the fuck out, guys.